I'm a ride-or-die chick, loyal to a fault. After I became sworn sisters with a downtown socialite, I found out her dad was trying to marry her off to some old geezer. She didn't want to go and cried her eyes out in my arms. I'd take a bullet for my girl, so that same day, I rounded up 100 of my people and crashed the engagement party. I've got ink on my skin and I don't do regrets. You touch one hair on my little sister's head, and I'll personally cremate you and feed your ashes to the pigs. It worked. The wedding was called off. She was so grateful she was in tears, and she excitedly dragged her brother over to me. Boss, I have one more favor. His first love just passed away, and my dad's forcing him to get married too. I was thinking, maybe you could. I was about to say no when I felt an icy glare land on my face. I looked up and almost fainted. Shit. Isn't this the crazy psycho online boyfriend I had to fake my own death to get rid of? I was squatting in front of a boba shop, holding a cheap lemonade with just a single lemon slice left at the bottom, and snapped a close-up selfie. When I posted it to my story, I picked out a super badass caption. Kissing the one I love, running with the wolves. I had already blocked that psycho, but not even 2 minutes after I posted, my beat-up phone completely froze. Kevin's messages were blowing up my screen. Selena, didn't you say you were going to sleep? Why are you still posting? You actually blocked me. Wow. Just wow. Who are you kissing? Who else do you love? Are you cheating on me? You don't love me anymore, do you? I know you're not asleep. Answer me. Explain yourself. Pick up the phone. The screen was so bogged down with messages it was completely frozen. I fought back my anger and silently turned it off and on again. This guy, Kevin, was someone I started dating online 6 months ago. It all started when I was swiping through a local dating app and saw his picture. A sharp nose, soulful eyes, and perfect hair. He was totally my type. I slid into his DMs and asked if he wanted to date. He said we could chat first. After a lot of bugging, I got his contact info and so began my life as a total simp. To claim him as mine, I even pinned his photo to the top of my chat. Kevin was touched and agreed to date me. But just a few days after we made it official, one of my girls ran up to me and said I was being played. Selena, he's probably catfishing you with someone else's profile. The guy in that photo is some super rich heir from the city. He's been in the news and everything. His family is loaded. Why would a guy like that be looking for love online? You're being scammed. She had a point. Not only was he hot in his pictures, but his voice was amazing, too. And in my experience with online dating, guys with voices that good have a super high chance of being a catfish. There was no way he was actually that handsome. I figured I'd date him for a few days and then dump him. But damn, this fake rich boy's voice was just too good, and he was great at sweet talking and being cute. During the day, I washed dishes in a hotel kitchen. At night, I worked the front desk at a karaoke bar. When I'd get back to my tiny apartment late at night and he'd call to check on me, even the toughest girl would get a little choked up. Even if he was probably some fat guy behind the screen. But it was an online thing, so who cares? As long as he never showed up in person, he was whatever his profile picture looked like to me. But after a while, his issues started to show. If I didn't reply to his messages for a little while, he'd start blowing up my phone. He'd call and complain for hours. It got in the way of my dishwashing gig and was a total waste of my time. I couldn't take it anymore. I tried breaking up with him, even deleted him as a friend. But it always ended with him sending me money and me agreeing to get back together. The next time I wanted to break up, I didn't dare. I'd spent all the money he gave me and was scared he'd ask for it back, so I just tried my best to ignore this fake rich kid. Besides, this guy could totally dox me. If I broke up with him and didn't pay him back, what if he posted all my info online? My crew would laugh their asses off at me behind my back. But I never expected this. I'd already put him on my restricted list, but he could still see my posts. My phone finally turned back on. The notifications read 99, and I had 20 missed calls. I was at my breaking point. I've been hustling for years, and I've never met a psycho this clingy. My phone just froze. Stop texting. Send failed. Send failed. The boba shop's Wi-Fi sucked, the messages just spun and spun. And restarting the phone had drained more than half my battery. Whatever, I'll deal with this psycho later. First, I needed to get back to my place and charge my phone. I still had the night shift to work. I had just slipped on my flip-flops and was about to take off on my little electric scooter when I smelled a faint whiff of smoke. I looked up and saw smoke pouring out of the apartment building upstairs. Through a window on the 3rd floor, I could vaguely make out the shape of a person. Somebody help. Fire. I shouted, ditched my scooter, and without a second thought, charged up the stairs. With a burst of adrenaline, I kicked down the heavy steel door on the 3rd floor. Thick black smoke poured out, but I could clearly see the girl who had been standing on the balcony. Covering my nose, I ran in, hoisted her onto my shoulder, and carried her out. Cough, cough, cough. The girl looked about my age, with big eyes and a delicate nose. Even with her face smudged with soot, I could tell her skin was pale. She sat nearby, hugging her arms and coughing non-stop. She didn't say a word, not even after the fire trucks left and the crowd of neighbors dispersed. The stars started to come out, and I was running late for work. I reached for my phone to call her family, but I realized it must have fallen out of my pocket in that half-burned apartment. Hey, you hungry? How about I take you to get a bite to eat? I rubbed my nose and casually walked over to her, swinging my arms. The girl looked up, and just as she opened her mouth to speak, tears started streaming down her cheeks. Her sooty face was suddenly streaked with 2 clean lines. It was kind of hilarious. Wah. She was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. I didn't have any tissues, so I used my grimy sleeve to wipe her face, which only smudged it more. It's okay, it's okay. A fire's no big deal. As long as you're alive, you can always start over. You only get about 30,000 days in this life. You gotta live them one at a time. You're still young. Someday you'll realize a house, a car, that's all just stuff. Let me tell you, what's really important is you. My voice got louder and louder. I lit a cigarette, getting all choked up by my own speech. I was genuinely happy that she had made it out alive. Because my little brother died in a house fire. That day, I came home from chopping wood to find our house had burned to the ground. My mom died young, and my dad, well, any money he got, he'd spend on booze in town. He was home that day. I'd asked him to watch my little brother while I went to get more firewood. He promised he would, but then he just left. He left my 3-year-old brother all alone in the kitchen by the stove. When he came back and saw the pile of rubble, he picked up the liquor bottle in his hand and smashed it over my head. The house was gone, and he was penniless. He sold me, a 10-year-old girl, for $500 to a woman in town who ran a shop, a woman named Linda. I was an apprentice. I begged on the streets. After being sold a few more times, I ended up here in the city. And I made a home for myself here. Why here? Because I couldn't afford a ticket to anywhere else. But at least I was free here. I've pretty much paid off my debts, made a good group of friends, and now we just make videos and hang out. Life's pretty sweet. I dished out a ton of inspirational crap, reciting every motivational post I'd ever seen online until my throat was raw, but the girl was still moping. After a long silence, she finally mumbled. I started the fire. I didn't want to live. What? My eyes went wide with disbelief. Are you kidding me? You could have said that earlier. You made me late for my night shift, cost me a whole night's pay, and I wasted all this time listening to you whine. I threw the butt of my cigarette on the ground and stomped it out. In all my years on this earth, the one type of person I can't stand is someone with zero will to live who wastes public resources. She could have at least jumped off a bridge or something. setting your apartment on fire and almost burning down the whole building, scaring the hell out of everyone for miles. It's just so, what's the word? What a moron. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I started to walk away, then turned back to yell one more thing. Next time you want to die, try not to take everyone else with you. You think you're the only one who lives in that building? The girl stood up, lifted a perfectly manicured hand to wipe away her tears, and said with a quiver in her voice. Humph. Why are you suddenly yelling at me? And besides, I own these buildings. Yeah, right. In your dreams. Think you're some city socialite? You're broke, so get a job like the rest of us instead of living in a fantasy world. I figured the smoke had gotten to her head and she was just talking nonsense. But then she pulled an ID out of her pajama pocket and threw it at me. My name is Claire. The real Claire. The name sounded familiar. My online boyfriend had stolen her brother's identity, so I had looked up the members of the city's prominent Brooke family. It was her. No doubt about it. And those buildings really were hers. I was a little embarrassed, but I stood up straight, like a proud peacock, and looked down my nose at her. So what if you have a little money? Does that give you the right to just die? I'd come this far, I couldn't lose face now. Claire was suddenly silent. Then she stepped forward and grabbed my hand. What now? You gonna have me arrested for yelling at you? Was this rich girl about to call her bodyguards to come deal with me? My knees suddenly felt weak. But then she dropped to her knees in front of me. Thank you, my hero. I was in a dark place and wanted to die, but the second I started the fire, I regretted it. You saved me. You not only saved my life, but you also gave me a pep talk. I see things clearly now. My hero, if you'll have me, can I be your sworn sister? A real-life downtown socialite wanted to be my little sister. I immediately dropped to my knees too, bowing my head to her. We're family, no need for formalities. Get up, little sis. After my phone was lost to the flames, Claire not only bought me a brand new smartphone but also replaced my old scooter with its long broken headlight. Happiness had come a little too fast. That night, I brought Claire back to my apartment, and we swore a solemn oath that as long as Selena have food to eat, my sister Claire will never go hungry. I'd walk through fire for her. After we made our vow, I was about to turn on my new phone when a brilliant idea struck me. Wait a second. I have a new phone, right? That means I have the perfect excuse to finally ditch that psycho. At the stroke of midnight, I had a flash of inspiration. I posted an obituary on my feed, pretending to be my good friend Linda. To all our friends, our fearless leader, Selena, died heroically last night while saving someone from a fire. Then, using Linda's account, I privately sent my new number to all my closest friends. As I deleted my old account, a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. Bwahahaha, screw him. I was finally, totally free of that psycho. Oh yeah, why'd you want to die, anyway? I asked, turning back to Claire. The girl blinked, her eyes still red and swollen from crying. Because my father wants me in an arranged marriage for business. The guy's some old dude, almost 50. He's already had 3 wives. His 3rd wife's daughter is my age. I told him no, so my father threatened to disown me. Holy crap. That was almost as bad as my own bastard of a father. And tonight, I'd had a little to drink, I wasn't thinking straight and just lit the place on fire. Claire tilted her head back to keep the tears from falling. Looking back now, it was so stupid. I should have married the old creep and then burned his house down. At least we'd go down together, and I'd stop him from ruining another girl's life. I quickly cut her off. Hey, none of this talk about dying. We're alive, let's stay that way. What if you get reincarnated as a cockroach or something? But my engagement party is tomorrow. I really don't want to marry him. A well-known businessman like that would have a public profile online. I opened up a search bar and looked him up. Yep. A creepy old geezer. He was fat and bloated, so greasy that not even a level 10 beauty filter could hide it. Where's the engagement party? Send me the address. Since Claire and I were sworn sisters now, her pain was my pain. We strong women don't just stand by and watch our sisters suffer. I told Claire to go to the party and not to worry, and to leave the rest to me. The engagement party was scheduled for the evening. During the day, I stood in front of a supermarket handing out flyers to all the grandmas and grandpas passing by. The flyer announced a customer appreciation event at the Royal Garden Hotel's first-floor ballroom, hosted by a Mr. Miller. All they had to do was bring the flyer for a free carton of eggs and a case of milk. I told the security guards that they were all guests from the bride's side. When the party started at 9, the massive ballroom, which should have been elegant and spacious, was packed shoulder to shoulder with senior citizens. It was total chaos. I snatched the mic from the MC, jumped on stage, and yelled, "Miller, you old bastard, you cradle-robbing son of a bitch. You have no shame. You dare marry my sister? I'll break both your legs." After I was done cursing him out, I squeezed a couple of eye drops into my eyes and started wailing. "Oh, my poor sister. Her father doesn't care, her mother's not around. She finally found someone she likes, but just because this guy has a few bucks, he thinks he can just force her to marry him. There's no justice in this world. No justice." One of the old ladies in the crowd, who was just there for the show, pulled out her phone and recorded my explosive, off-the-cuff performance. She posted it online, and it went viral. After that fiasco, the old man was completely humiliated, and people all over the internet were tearing him apart. The young socialite of the Brooke family successfully called off the wedding. "Boss. You're amazing. My father's never going to interfere with my love life again, ha ha ha." Claire found me just as I was coming out of the kitchen after my dishwashing shift. I smiled at her but didn't tell her that I had actually gone to the Brooke Corporation to see her father before all this. Claire comes from a single-parent home. Her mother moved abroad after the divorce. Looking at her social media, her father remembered her birthday every year. Deep down, he had to love her. But what's the point of regret after the people you love are already gone? That stubborn old man was too proud to back down, so he had security throw me out. But at least he was willing to listen to reason. But there's one more thing. My dad isn't forcing me anymore, but now he started pushing my brother to get married. I was shocked. Whoa, hold on. I'm not going through that humiliation again. I don't want another video of me going viral. I quickly gathered my things, ready to make a run for it. Claire grabbed my arm, whining. No, it's not that. My brother's first love just passed away. He's not over it, and my dad keeps pressuring him. I was hoping you could give him a little pep talk. Oh, so just get him to cheer up, huh? I scratched the old, faded scar on my left arm and answered slowly. Was she kidding? Meet her brother? Did she have any idea I used to date a guy who stole her brother's pictures? Talk about awkward. I turned and bolted. Only to run headfirst into a rock-solid chest. I looked up. And I froze on the spot. Who was this? Why did he look exactly like the guy in the pinned photo? And why was he glaring at me with such a thunderous expression, like I owed him money? Bro. Claire called out excitedly from behind me. This is the sister I told you about. She's the one who saved me. Hi, I'm Selena. Nice to meet you, Claire's brother. There was no escape. I forced an awkward smile and held out my right hand. Aren't you dead? Back from the grave? That clear, crisp voice was terrifyingly familiar. My smile froze on my face. Oh, crap. Crap. It was really him. Would you believe they revived me at the last second? Kevin's left hand gripped mine, and he was surprisingly strong. I struggled, but I couldn't break free. Wait, do you two know each other? Claire tilted her head, looking completely confused. Nope, never met, I said, shaking my head frantically. It's okay, sis. I've had a change of heart. You go on home. I'm going to treat our savior to a meal, just the two of us. His charming eyes crinkled into a smile that sent a shiver down my spine. I was on pins and needles in the fancy restaurant, feeling like ants were crawling all over me. Kevin just stirred his coffee spoon without a word, a cold smile playing on his lips the whole time. Wow, it's already 8. Time flies, huh? I gotta get to my night shift. I'll have to skip dinner. I glanced at the clock on the wall, feigning shock as I stood up to leave. But my wrist was pinned to the table. The man tossed a black card in front of me. There's plenty of money in here. Take whatever you want. Selena. Now, would you care to explain the whole faking your death thing? I scoffed, staring at the card for a few seconds. He didn't even give me the pin. What good was a card without it? Fine, I'll tell you the truth. I thought you were a catfish using someone else's pictures to date me. Well, now you see me. It's me. I remained standing, silent. What's your new number? He asked, giving my arm a little shake. I didn't want to give it to him. Not at all. Look, I'll be honest again. I'm not into online dating anymore. So? Kevin unbuttoned the cuff of his shirt, revealing a faint scar on his pale wrist. So let's just say we're BR. I didn't even get the word broken out. Kevin rudely cut me off. You know, when I saw that obituary, my plan was to find your body and then kill myself. I let out a confused huh. Seriously, is life on a 2-for-1 special in your family or something? First her, now him. Selena, and who was that post for? Who was the other man you were going to kiss? Okay, if I wasn't completely sure he was my online boyfriend before, I was now. Oh, for crying out loud. It was just some random cringy quote I found online. Since he was clearly loaded, he probably wouldn't ask me to pay him back. So I made a break for it. The man chased me for a good 30 feet down the street. I was already on my scooter, but Kevin was still sprinting after me. I smirked. What an idiot, thinking he could outrun my little scooter on foot. But then at the next intersection, I wasn't paying attention. A black SUV was blocking the narrow side street. He was chasing me in a car. TCH, what a sore loser. Selena, where are you going to hide now? You don't answer my calls, you ignore my texts. All you do is give me the silent treatment. Kevin was on me again, like a ghost I couldn't shake. I'll admit, the guy was gorgeous, and his voice and looks matched surprisingly well. But I just couldn't stand his personality. In the 6 months we dated, the only times I was happy were when he sent me money or cooed me to sleep with voice messages. The rest of the time felt like being in prison. Let me tell you something, Kevin. What goes around comes around. Don't push it. People like us, we believe in clean breaks. We see each other again, we're cool. Deal? I was out of options and running late again. If I missed another shift, I was going to get fired. His eyebrows furrowed, and it was clear he'd completely ignored my well-intentioned advice. Then let me ask you this. Do you love me or not? I don't. I answered honestly. I don't believe you. He was furious. Then why the hell did you ask? In the end, I insisted on leaving, and Kevin tailed me all the way to work. While I sat at the front desk of the karaoke bar, he stood nearby like a guard dog. Every time a guy spoke to me, he'd start making a scene. Finally, my shift ended. I told him it was time for us to go our separate ways. Kevin still wouldn't budge. He insisted on driving me home. As it happened, my scooter was out of battery. A cab from there would cost over $20, so I didn't refuse. Okay, just stop at the entrance to this alley. You don't have to take me all the way. I had him pull over before we entered my rundown apartment complex. I don't know if it was because this car was too fancy or I was just too dumb, but I pulled the handle a few times and the door wouldn't open. The streetlights on this block were broken, and I'd been watching a lot of horror movies lately, so I was starting to get spooked. Then I turned and saw Kevin staring at me, his face completely blank. "Selena, where can you run to now?" His icy tone, combined with those creepy words, "in this dark, enclosed space," made the goosebumps pop up all over my tattooed arm. Without thinking, I swung a right hook. "Take that." My fist smashed right into Kevin's perfect nose. He snapped back to normal instantly. "Ow. Selena, what did you hit me for? You deserved it. Who says stuff like that in the middle of the night? I thought you were possessed or something. I just didn't want you to leave. My nose is bleeding." I ended up half carrying the 6-foot-tall guy, his head tilted back, up the narrow stairwell. When Linda opened the door, she jumped. "Sis, what did you drag home this time?" "I didn't drag him home. He's not mine." Since I'd taken Linda in off the street, and our cat and dog were both strays I'd found, the kid just assumed I'd picked up another person. "I'm yours," Kevin mumbled, his head still tilted back. I let out an annoyed sigh. "Would you just shut up before the blood drips into your mouth?" I told Linda to get a clean, warm towel, then pressed it to the man's nose after the bleeding stopped. "Okay, go to bed. You have to get up early for school tomorrow." The girl nodded obediently and disappeared into the little nook sectioned off by a curtain. It was just a one-bedroom apartment, not very big, so that little study area was the best I could do. "Who is she?" Kevin was mostly fine by now but was still clinging to my side, making me hold the towel for him. "My little sister." "Your actual sister?" "No. I met her after I came to the city. I was 18 then. I had just gotten off my shift at the convenience store and was squatting on a street corner, smoking a cigarette. I saw this dirty little girl, maybe 10 years old, digging through a trash can. I handed her the empty plastic bottle I was holding and asked where her family was, why they weren't looking after her. She told me she'd been kicked out of the orphanage and had no family. So I asked her if she wanted to be family with me. This is our 5th year as a family." Kevin's eyes were fixed on my face, his brow furrowed. I couldn't figure out what his constipated expression meant. Then he pointed to a corner of the balcony. "That's my dog. He's an old boy. I found him my first year in the city. And that's my cat. She's still young. She just moved in last year. So now you see it, right? This is all I have. I'm poor, my life is a mess, I smoke, drink, dye my hair, and have tattoos. I'm not exactly high class. Standing next to a polished rich kid like you, I just look like a clown. So let's just go our separate ways. That online thing was just a game. There were never any real feelings involved." The man blinked, and then tears started streaming down his face. "How can you say there were no real feelings? The past 183 days and 5 hours counted for me." Geez, was he cosplaying a calendar? He remembered it that precisely. Kevin was crying so hard his nose was running. He didn't look anything like a rich city heir. I quickly pulled out some tissues and handed them to him. "You don't know, I was on antidepressants back then. But after you started talking to me every day, I got so much better. You'd send me pictures of the sky from your work, the food you ate, the tattoo on your arm. I found every little thing so interesting. You were with me during the hardest time of my life. How could that be a game?" "Selena, I wasn't playing games with you." Kevin spoke with such raw emotion. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. All I could manage was, "It's getting late. If you don't go home soon, the sun will be up." Claire started coming to hang out with me every day. But whenever she came by, I was usually busy with work. "Just quit. From now on, my brother, my boyfriend, and I will take care of you." The girl grabbed my hand, her tone so serious it didn't sound like a joke. I was stunned. When did you get a boyfriend? She shyly wrapped her arm around mine and swayed. It just happened. It was fate. You know, I was so impulsive that day. What if I hadn't met you? What if I had just given up and died? I'd be looking for true love in the afterlife right now. She was right. Nothing is more important than your own life. As the saying goes, where there's life, there's hope. Okay, I really have to go to work now. Wait. I'm serious. I'll support you. Claire shouted after me. I rode off on my scooter without looking back, just giving her a wave. Don't worry. I can take care of myself. I've been taking care of myself for 21 years. But on my way to work that day, I was late again. This time, I got hit by a car going the wrong way down the street. I flew a good 30 feet and landed on the pavement. My vision was blurry, but I could hear gasps from the crowd. Oh my God, there's been an accident. Someone call 911. Guess where there's life, there's hope isn't always a guarantee. I don't remember being lifted onto a stretcher, or who was shouting my name. I only remember that right before they wheeled me into the operating room, everything was blindingly bright. Am I about to die? I saw a scene from my childhood. Mommy, why can't I go to school? I was tugging on my mother's hand, crying and throwing a fit. Hope, sweetie, be good. We're poor, and we might have a little brother or sister to raise soon. Besides, girls in our village don't need a lot of schooling. My mother held me close, her voice soft and soothing. Oh. Okay, then. I wiped my tears and accepted it. Then the image shifted to my once gentle mother, gasping for breath on her deathbed. She was clutching my newborn brother, refusing to let go. The doctors at the town hospital asked my father whether to save the mother or the baby. She was in too much pain to speak, but my dad gritted his teeth and said, "You have to save my son." My mother's face was pale, but she nodded weakly in agreement. Mom, my birth name was Hope. Was that because you were hoping for a son? Later, I knelt at her grave. I swore I would never use the name Hope again. A few years passed. I drifted from place to place. I learned how to fight, how to pull hair, how to kick a drunk creep in the balls. I was malnourished, skinny as a rail. I got a big dragon tattoo on my left arm to cover the scar from the broken bottle. I slowly realized that once I got some sharp edges, no one dared to bully me anymore. I worked 2 jobs a day. I paid back the debt to the woman who'd bought me. "You're free now, Selena," she said. In my 10th year in the city, I had a cat, a dog, and a family. My life was just starting to get good. So why do I feel so tired now? Hope, will you come with me? It was my mother, whom I hadn't seen in over a decade, appearing in my dreams while I was unconscious. Mom, my name's not Hope anymore. After Dad sold me, I changed it. On my ID, my name is Selena. The woman was wiping away tears. She still looked like she was in her early 30s, just like I remembered. Selena, so you have a new life now? Then I won't take you with me. My fingers twitched first, then I realized I could open my eyes. The pillow next to my head was soaked. Selena. Selena. You're finally awake. Oh, you scared me to death. Sis, does it hurt? Doctor, the patient's awake. I never expected to wake up to such a crowd. Linda still had her school backpack on. I looked at the Brooks siblings by my bed, who looked like they were about to cry themselves sick. I tried to smile, but my lips were too dry. It's okay. The mountain's still standing. Kevin's eyes were red. He just wiped his tears without a word and stumbled out of the room. As Linda was wiping my face, she told me I'd been out for 2 days and 1 night. Kevin never left my side, and he didn't eat or drink anything. I opened my mouth, wanting to say he sounded a bit like my dog, Goldie. Once, I took a bad fall at home, and he stayed by my side just like that. He almost starved himself. So silly. My eyes welled up. I didn't know why I was crying. After I got out of the hospital, my left arm was broken, and my leg needed time to heal. I was wrapped up like a mummy, sitting in a wheelchair while Kevin pushed me around his backyard garden to get some sun. He had turned into a total chatterbox. He could point to a random car and talk about it for half an hour. So, two antennas met on a roof, fell in love, and got married. The ceremony wasn't much, but the reception was excellent. I didn't get it. I was so tired I kept yawning, but I couldn't just ignore him. I had to force a smile. Later, the man told me he was afraid I'd get depressed sitting in the wheelchair all day, so he was trying everything he could think of to make me laugh. Oh, so you were telling jokes back then? Yeah, they were all carefully selected dad jokes. Weren't they funny? Huh, yeah. Hilarious. I looked up that joke later and realized you had to be a bit of a nerd to get it. No wonder I didn't laugh. It was 3 years later when I finally agreed to date Kevin again. He had pursued me for another 3 years. No, that's not right. He had stuck to me like glue for another 3 years. But he had gradually learned to control his possessiveness and express his feelings in a healthy way. He was still a bit of a crybaby, though. As for me, I hadn't changed a bit. I was still a tough girl at heart. Still had my bleached blonde hair and my big, colorful sleeve tattoo. Kevin took over his father's company, and just 2 days in, some of the senior employees were deliberately giving him a hard time. He came home and cried in my arms. I comforted him while reciting some tough guy quotes I knew. Tomorrow, you go in and you tell them this. I call the shots, and I've got reason on my side. You try to call the shots, and you'll get my fist. Act up again, and I will clip your wings. I may be a Mustang that can't be tamed, but a weasel like you? I'm putting you in your place. And one more, it's okay to have an ego, but when I'm being respectful, you damn well better take it. Kevin hesitated for a second. Will that really work? Of course. Just remember to say it with confidence. 3 years later, Linda aced her exams and got into the best high school in the city. But because she was shy, some of the boys in her class always picked on her. She would come home with her backpack covered in mean stickers. I was planning to have Kevin go to the parent-teacher conference alone, afraid my image might cause problems for Linda with her classmates. But after this, all bets were off. That day, I had Kevin call up Claire and the rest of my crew. About 10 of us rolled up to the parent-teacher conference and stood in the back of the classroom, listening to the teacher speak. After the teacher was done, the students came back in. I had Linda point out the boys who had been bullying her for no reason. Right in front of the teacher, I took those insulting stickers and stuck them all over their faces. From that day on, no one at that high school ever dared to mess with Linda again. And on my 24th birthday, Kevin proposed. Just as I felt a tear welling up, Claire, who was standing beside us, started sobbing first. It wasn't easy. Selena, you have to be happy. I looked at the huge diamond ring on my finger and asked myself, will I be happy? The answer was, of course.